Today, business and organizations are connected to their clients, customers, users, employees, vendors, and sometimes even to their competitors. Data can tell a story about any of these relationships, and with this information, organization can improve almost any aspect of their operations. Although data can be valuable, too much information is unworthy, and around the data is useless. The right data collection method or process and technique can mean the difference between useful insight and time-wasting misdirection. Luckily, organizations have several tools at their disposal for primary data collection. The methods ranges from the traditional and simple such as face-to-face interview to most sophisticated way to collect and analyze data. Data collection techniques. Data collection techniques information you gather can come from a range of sources. Likewise, there are a variety of techniques to use when gathering primary data. Here are some of the most common data collection techniques. First, interviews. In-depth interviews include both individual interviews as well as group interviews. The data can be recorded in a wide variety of ways, including stenography, audio recording, video recording, or written notes. In interviews, it is assumed that there is a questionnaire and one or more interviewees. The purpose of the interview is to probe the ideas of the interviewees about the phenomenon of interest. Second, survey or questionnaires are used for collecting data in survey research. They usually include a set of standardized questions that explore a specific topic and collect information about demographic opinions, attitudes, or behaviors. 3. Observations. This can be done directly or indirectly when the subject knowing or unaware that you are observing them. You may choose to collect data through continuous observation or via set time periods depending on your project. 4. Case study. A case study is usually an in-depth description of a process, experience, or structure at a single institution. In order to answer a combination of what and why questions, case study generally involve a mix of quantitative and qualitative data collection techniques. Most often, the researcher will analyze quantitative data first and then use qualitative strategies to look deeper in the meaning of the trends identified in the numerical data. 5. Checklist. They can be simple list of criteria that can be marked as present or absent or can provide space for observer comments. These tools can provide consistency over time or between observers. Checklists can be used for evaluating databases or structuring peer observations of instruction sessions. The collected data from the above techniques need to be structured so that analysis of the data will be very easy with simple analysis tools. I am going to explain such tool used to structure data. Let's see one by one. First, stratification is a technique used in combination with other data analysis tools. When data from a variety of sources or categories have been lumped together, the meaning of the data can be seen impossible to see. This technique separates the data so that patterns can be seen. When to use stratification? First, before collecting data. Second, when data come from several sources or conditions, such as shifts, days of the week, suppliers, or population groups. Third, when data analysis may require separating different sources or conditions. Stratification procedure. First, before collecting data, consider which information about the sources of the data might have an effect on the result. Set up the data collection so that you collect that information as well. Second, when plotting or graphing the collected data in a scatter diagram, control chart, histogram, or other analysis tools, use different marks or colors to distinguish data from various sources. Data that are distinguished in this way are said to be stratified. Third, analyze the subsets of stratified data separately. For example, on a scatter diagram where data are stratified into data from source 1 and from source 2. Draw quadrants, count points, and determine the critical value only for the data from source 1, then only for the data from source 2. Stratification example. A manufacturing team drew a scatter diagram to test whether product purity and iron contamination were related, but the plot did not demonstrate a relationship. Then team member relied the data gave from their different sources, reactors. The team members redrew the diagram using a different symbol for each reactor's data. Now, patterns can be seen. The data from reactor 2 and reactor 3 are circled even without doing any calculation. It is clear that for those two reactors, purity decreases as iron increases. However, the data from reactor 1, the solid dots that are not circled, do not show the relationship. Something is different about reactor 1. Stratification considerations. Here are examples of different sources that might require data to be stratified, like equipment, shifts, department, materials, suppliers, data, day of the week, time of day, product, survey. Data usually benefit from structure. Always consider before collecting data whether stratification be needed during analysis. Plan to collect stratification information after the data are collected. It might be too late. On your graph or chart, include a legend that identifies the marks or colors used. Check sheet, also called defect concentration diagram. A check sheet is structure prepared form for collecting and analyzing data. This is a generic tool that can be adapted for a wide variety of purposes. When to use a checklist. First, when data can be observed and collected repeatedly by the same person or at the same location. Second, collecting data on the frequency or patterns of events, problems and defects location, defects causes, and etc. Third, when collecting data from a production process. Check sheet procedure. First, decide what event or problem will be observed. Develop operational definitions. Second, decide when data will be collected and for how long. Third, design the form, set it up so that data can be recorded simple by making check marks or X's or similar symbols, and so that data do not have to be recorded for analysis. Fourth, label all spaces on the form. 5. Test the check sheet for a short trial period to be sure it collects the appropriate data and is easy to use. 6. Each time the target event or problems occurs, record that on the check sheet. Check sheet example. The figure below shows a check sheet used to collect data on telephone interruptions. The tick mark where added data was collected over several weeks.